Well, I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'll be able to see any comments going on. But just to start with, just so you know, later on in the presentation, in a couple of minutes, we're going to be using an online worksheet, and you can find the link to it over in the comments section. I pasted the link to it there. When we get to that slide, there will also be a QR code that you can you can zap your camera on it, and it should bring you to that online worksheet. Okay. Oh, I see. You're seeing. Let's swap displays here. Okay. So thank you for being here. We're really glad that you're thinking strategically about topics like pricing during these really strange times. So whether this was a topic you chose before the COVID situation or it's come up as a result of things you're experiencing right now in your business, it's smart of you to want to know more about how to optimize your pricing. And that holds true whether you're a business that's hanging on by a thread right now, or you're struggling with a spike in demand because of the nature of what you do, or you're a startup. Pricing strategy is always relevant, and this is an excellent time to optimize your strategy, as we will demonstrate in our presentation. So according to recent research by JP Chase, women-owned businesses start out generating 34% less revenue than male-owned businesses, and that gap continues into the life cycle of the business. And women also often feel like they need to charge less than their male counterparts, which is another way that profits get eroded. And we'll talk more about profit erosion later. But many people think the reason that women have lower revenues is that women go into lower margin industries, but that's not true. That study shows that that's not necessarily the case. It holds true even for companies in the same industries. And a lot of people also assume that women's businesses are lifestyle businesses or side businesses. And that's not true either. Most women-owned businesses are the main source of support for women business owners. And this revenue gap, actually, I don't have the stat on here, but this is if women-owned businesses had the same average revenues as male-owned businesses in the US, it would generate another $4.5 trillion a year for the US economy. So this is a big problem. It's a problem for women business owners themselves personally and their families, but it's a problem for the economy as well. So some of the problems that women entrepreneurs face are outside of our control. There are perceptions that people might have about us and our ability to scale our businesses, or there are studies that show that we are treated differently and perceived differently by lenders and investors. So those things we can't control. But there are two important things that we can control. One is how we price, and two is our confidence level in selling at that optimized price. So those are the things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about pricing, and we're going to talk about how value-based pricing can really help boost your confidence. So one of the problems that we found is that people have a really narrow definition of what pricing is. They think it's a set it and forget it exercise. But we think about pricing as a strategic lever for growth, and it goes well beyond just the setting of the price. So setting the price is just the first step. This next step is you also have to get that price. So that's where you need to have effective sales messaging that demonstrates your value. The third step is you need to actually net your price by eliminating unnecessary discounting and price erosion, which is something that women struggle with, as we saw earlier. Women feeling like they need to charge less than men. That would be an example of price erosion. And you need to let your value increase over time by making sure your business model supports profitability and growth, and that new profits and services are aligned with your profitability goals. Make sure I can see if anyone has any comments. Go ahead and put them in the comment section. I'll be able to address them as we go. There's a lot of opportunity right now. That might mean grabbing market share from competitors who are failing because of the COVID crisis, or finding new products and services that your customers will come to rely on you for in the post-COVID landscape. So if you understand value and how to message your value, those are the companies that are going to not just survive, but they're going to thrive moving forward. So there are a lot of unknowns right now, but even during this disruption, two fundamental truths hold. One, pricing is your biggest profitability lever, and I'm going to show you some math a little later to prove that to you. And two, if you can communicate your value effectively to your customer, you will win business. According to one of the most comprehensive studies on value-based pricing, most companies that focused on both value-based pricing and value messaging, which is part of value-based pricing, have 24% higher profits than companies that do neither. And since women are already starting at a revenue discrepancy, it's really critical for women to pay attention to their pricing and their value messaging. So I'm going to show you a little bit of math to prove why pricing is the strongest profitability lever. So this is a sample P&L. You can see that their baseline is to have revenues of $100 with cost of goods sold at $75.30 and selling general and admin expenses at $16.50. So that gives them an operating profit of $8.20. And many companies think the best way to improve profitability is to just sell more. And selling more is not a bad thing, I'm not saying that, but that often comes with increased expenses as well. So we see here that if we increase revenue by $1 and also increase cost of goods sold by 1%, that only gives us a profitability increase of 3%. So another common tactic is to increase profitability by decreasing expenses. So if you cut your support staff, marketing, other general expenses, in this case, going down 1%, you only increase your profits by 2%. So that's actually the least effective way to improve profitability. Decreasing cost of goods sold is not a bad way to boost profits, in this case by 9.2%. If you can manage to do that. Oftentimes our cost of goods sold are often fixed and not really in our control. But as I'll show you, the best way to increase profitability is to increase your price. So here you see, if we do that, if we increase our price by $1, but don't increase our expenses, all of that new revenue goes straight to the bottom line. So we end up with profits, increasing our profits by 12.2%, which it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because if you increase your price without increasing your expenses, all that new revenue is going to go to your bottom line. So most companies price on a cost plus markup basis, where they calculate their costs and then they add a margin on top. So in this scenario, companies often leave money on the table, and they even penalize themselves for efficiencies they've created internally. So this penalty often happens if you see companies that charge by the hour. As they get faster and more efficient, they actually pay themselves less for the same output, and their customers are getting the same or even better product. So it doesn't really make sense. Another way is market-based pricing, where you find out what most others are charging and you charge that. Or in the case of many women, as we saw, you charge a little bit less, thinking that's a competitive advantage, a dangerous one. But if you're adding value in different ways than your competitors, again, you're potentially leaving money on the table because your customer is getting all the value of your value adds and you're getting none of it. And then another option, of course, is to find out what your customer has budget for and then charge that. And that's also a dangerous game to play, because that's where we can have scope creep. That can start to happen. We find ourselves with very narrow margins, or even that frustrating situation where we're not making money or we're even paying to work. So we're going to make the case that value-based pricing is a better model because it allows you to share the value of what you're doing with your customer. So our position is that if you're adding value in unique ways, both you and your customer should benefit from it. Otherwise, why have value adds? Okay, so now we're going to be using an online worksheet for this session. So this is going to allow you to work through the exercise, and then you can also come back to this worksheet later. So I put this link in the comments box, so you can click on it there. You can also, or you can copy paste it. You can also open the camera function on your phone and zap this QR code, and it should open a browser with that URL on your phone. So go ahead and do that. I'm gonna just open the comment section, see if anybody is having any issues. And if you get to that opening screen and there's an orange circle spinning, you can click create an account and it should take you to create the account. Don't let the orange spinning circle, it's not like the Mac spinning death circle. You can actually do things when that orange circle is spinning. So it'll ask you to create an account. It'll ask you to enter an email and password, and then it'll ask you to log in. So then after you log in, if there's another spinning orange circle with the Start Survey button, you can just go ahead and click the Start Survey button, and it should take you to the survey. So as people are getting themselves logged in, let me just say that what I want you to leave with this session with are two things. One, you're going to learn to quantify the value of what you do with a dollar amount, which is key to the messaging and to the value-based pricing. And two, you're going to learn to write a value message that is specific to your business. Now, if anybody's just really struggling to get in here with this this online worksheet, of course, you can just do this on a piece of paper. Okay, so once you get to this screen, you can go ahead and enter a few details about yourself. Your name, your phone number is optional, and then just go ahead and choose the industry that is most aligned with what you do. And then the next thing to think about is, what is your biggest pricing challenge? So if you're here today, you may be here because you might suspect you're not charging enough. You may be wondering, should I be switching from an hourly rate to a project rate? You may be even just thinking about your business model in general and how pricing fits into it. We believe and take the position that pricing should be an integral part of thinking about your business model. How you price is really critical to that. So go ahead and just jot a couple thoughts there about your pricing challenges. So the first step in value-based pricing is to figure out what's called your reference price. So this is the price that your customers are paying now. And often that means what they're paying a competitor. Or what can sometimes happen is, if you are developing something new, your customers may be doing this themselves. So basically doing it themselves would be like the competitor. Doing nothing at all could be a competitor. So the key question here is, how are they getting this done without you? And then once you think about that, then go ahead and fill in what you know about their pricing. I'll just give you a moment to think about that. And one other thing to think about, if you don't know anything about your competitor's pricing, just a nudge to maybe go do a little research and find that out, because that's going to be really important to optimizing your own pricing strategy. So the second step in value-based pricing is to understand how you are different from your competitors. So in this case, we ask for 3 different things. Just for the sake of time, you can just maybe just do one. If you can think of three, that's great. You can also come back to this worksheet, this workbook, this online workbook at your leisure and fill out the rest of it if you don't have time to fill it all out right now. But some ways to think about this are, like, what do your customers say is best about you, or what's the feedback you hear from them? Why do they like to work with you? Another way to think about it is, like, why did you go into business in the first place? You must have seen a need in the marketplace that you're trying to fill. So what is that? What's that need that you are filling that's different from your competitors? So, and the reason we're thinking about this is we're going to be teaching you the steps to start thinking about the value you bring. So in this sample, I gave three examples here. I said we're more reliable than our competitors. It might be something like our product breaks down less or never breaks down, or that I always deliver on time when my competitor is always late. And another common one is to say that we have better quality products or services, and that could be the quality of the materials or the ingredients you use. Another one that we see from people is people like to cite their customer service, quality of their customer service. And there's probably far more than that. And another thing to note is, if we were gonna work this out fully in a true value-based pricing exercise, some of the differences between you and your competitors might be negative, actually. There are probably things your competitors do better than you. And it's important to be clear and honest about that. In this exercise, go ahead and choose one thing you do better, but just know that is something that it's important to consider as well. Okay. So the third step here is to translate this difference into something that matters to your customer. This is trickier than it sounds. A lot of us humans, I think in general, we think about ourselves first. So when I'm talking to business owners and asking them to tell me about what they do, they talk about their products and their services and themselves. Really, what your customer cares about is, what is the benefit to them? So it's really important to connect your differences to something that impacts the lives of your customers. And so a great salesperson taught us that every product has to translate into one of these 6 benefits. So it's either save time, save money, make more money, some kind of psychological benefit. For B2B people, it's that maybe you help them help their customers, or you reduce risk. And we can actually break down all benefits that are possible into one of these 6 categories. So the first 3 are pretty obvious. Do you save them time? Do you actually help them make money? That could happen a lot of times in the B2B space. Do you save them money? Those 3 are pretty obvious. Psychological, this is a little bit trickier. So for like a good example of this is they're proud to use your brand because it's a luxury item, or something like you help them sleep better at night. You've taken something off their plate that was like really stressful and that was causing them anxiety. Another common one in the B2B space is helping them help their customers. So, people in the professional services are often, providing services that are helping their customers add value to their own customers and keep their brand promise to their own customers. Reducing risk, that might be something like, a good example of this is if you're in the data security space and your advice or your tool helps a company prevent data leaks. So go ahead and choose one of those benefits here for this part of the exercise. And the fourth step is to quantify benefits. So in this example, we're making the case that by being more reliable, we actually save our customers time. So maybe that means that because we always deliver on time and our competitors often run late, our customers maybe experience less downtime or they have to wait around less. One example of this is we worked with a company that was a logistics company, and oftentimes a logistics company would say like, okay, well, we're going to come and pick up between 12 and 4 or something. They give like a time band. And this client of ours said actually a specific time. They'd say 2 o'clock, we'll be there at 2, and they were there at 2. So we made the case that this actually saved their customers time because, if you have to take half a day off work to be around for, your logistics person, delivery person to pick something up, that actually is money because time is money. So in our case, if we estimated that their time is worth like $100 an hour, and that's 8 hours less downtime, you can actually quantify that. So the point of having these numbers is these numbers are going to help you justify the price that you're going to be asking for. And they help give you confidence. Now, you might not actually say, okay, well, I save you $800, so I'm going to tack $800 on the price. That might not be what you do. But what you can do is in your messaging, when you are talking to your customers and selling to them, you can actually quantify this value to them and say, like, we actually save you $800 here. And, so when you think about maybe we charge a little more than our competitors, but you actually realize far more ROI on us than you would on our competitors. So for making money, saving time, quantifying makes sense, right? Psychological benefits can be a little more challenging, but we encourage you to give it a shot. So if one of your benefits is that you reduce stress in some way and you help your customers sleep better at night because you take something stressful off their plate, think about how much would you estimate a good night's sleep to be worth? I mean, to me, that's priceless, but you could even think like what's a dollar amount you could put on an hour of someone's time and say, okay, I'm gonna help you sleep better at night, 2 hours more or something, anything like that. So just an estimate. So for reducing risk, it would be about the cost of an incident and then the likelihood that that would happen. So in that data breach example that we used before, if a data breach incident costs, they can be incredibly expensive for a company, but say, $1 million or something, then we can multiply that by the likelihood that that breach could happen and then come up with a quantified way like that. So then we get to kind of a summary of all of your values. So the idea is, again, just to kind of get you into the mindset of turning your thinking and your messaging around 180 degrees to think about what are the actual benefits to the customers and then quantifying that. So again, just to repeat, you might not actually charge for all of this value, but you can start to use this messaging with your customers to help them understand the value that you do bring. So the next step in value-based pricing is to determine two important aspects of your value. Are your benefits more economic or psychological? So with our little slider scale here, you can toggle along this continuum with that little yellow dot and say, okay, my benefits are more economic. So in the case that I was just using of being more reliable and putting a dollar amount on like the hours saved with that, that would be more of an economic benefit. Obviously, thinking about psychological benefits as, again, like what is the feeling someone gets at, you know, cosmetic companies are really good at this. They'll show, you know, on the mascara box, it'll show a picture of lashes without their mascara and lashes with their mascara. So, you know, obviously those benefits are almost entirely psychological benefits. So go ahead and toggle that little yellow dot along the continuum there to determine that. And the second aspect is, how easy is it to compare your product with your competitors? So like for a product in a grocery store, like a tin of nuts sitting there on the shelf, it's quite easy for customers to look at your price and then look at your competitor's price and, you know, compare them. Other industries aren't as easy. One example that I'll use is like an executive coach, for example. So someone who's being pitched business by an executive coach, in order to compare the price and the benefits of that coach, they'd have to go out and actually like interview other executive coaches, you know, which they may or may not have time to do. Maybe they do, maybe they talk to 2 or 3, but they certainly, it's not like a commodity where they can easily just see what the market price is for something like that. So these two things, so again, go ahead and like kind of toggle along the continuum there to look at that. And then what you'll get on the next slide here is some instructions around actually creating a value message that aligns with where you landed on the continuum on the previous page. So you get a somewhat customized version of this page. And it'll explain a little bit about how your value proposition works and the best practices for messaging techniques for that type of value message. So in this example, because I said it's hard to compare benefits with competition, it's really important for you to pull out the benefits that may not be obvious and, if possible, attach a dollar amount to them. So what we really say about this one is you have to do the math for your customer. You can't assume that they're going to do the math for themselves. So the example here I use, again, going back to like a business coach, if she charges $2,000 a month and her clients see an average 15% revenue increase from working with her, it would be much better for her to actually just do that math and use that math in her messaging to demonstrate her value in terms of her ROI. So going back to my earlier example about being more reliable than competitors, so we want to pull out and quantify exactly what that would mean for the customer. So in this example, because we're more reliable than our competitors, we help you reduce downtime. So that's very focused on them and their needs and their pain points. So this can save you the 8 hours of downtime you're currently experiencing with your current provider, and at $100 per hour, that's $800. So this is where you can get the type of value messaging that's going to help you get whatever price it is that you are asking. So go ahead and just take a few moments here, and I'll be quiet because it's hard to think when someone else is talking. Just be quiet for a minute or two here and see if I can write out something. Okay. And if you didn't get a chance to do this, and please feel free to come back and use this tool later. You can also come back and if you had, a couple of other value differences there, you can do them specifically for each one. So now here at the end, you'll get a little summary of the work that you did. And you can have this email to yourself. You can, so I would suggest doing that. And then if you want to learn more, all of these aspects here are part of value-based pricing. So again, as we talked about, setting a value-based price, that's the first step, but then developing your value messaging. Sometimes developing value-based thought leadership is another really excellent way to develop the value messaging that will support your value-based price. Increasing confidence. I can't emphasize enough how important this is to the value-based pricing process. Value-based pricing depends on our ability to go out and ask for an optimized price, a price that shares value between us and our customers. And that takes confidence. So that is something that we can also help you with. Financial modeling and decision making. So a lot of women-owned businesses and businesses in general, pricing is a really important part to being able to project out and predict, what your financial model is going to look like year over year. And it also impacts your ability to make decisions about other parts of your business, including when you can hire your first hire or hire your next hire, whatever, investment decisions, like important decisions like that all come back to like having a financial model where the pricing strategy is really clear. And then growing your business, of course. This is, again, as we showed, it's really important to pay attention to your pricing as you grow your business. If you just focus on volume as a growth lever, that can really get people into trouble because their expenses can, go up at the same time, sometimes even faster than the revenue is going up. So making sure that all along your pricing is aligned with your profitability goals is really critical. And so just a little bit about us. We are a startup ourselves, and my business partner and I have many years of experience working in the two different areas here. Susan is a pricing guru. She was the SVP of pricing at GE, the first person to hold that position. So she's kind of the financial brain. I'm the value messaging side of things. I have a journalism background and have been helping companies value message themselves and their offerings for many years. Okay, we've got a little bit of time if anyone has any questions. The other thing I might do if no one has questions is I might actually show you the other models for if we land differently along those continuums. I think I'll do that. Okay, so if as you're on this page and you toggle along here and you end up with Your psychological benefits are stronger, and let's just keep that over there, but it's still difficult for your customers to compare, then what you're going to find is the best practice for that scenario is that your value message should use outside research or testimonials to reduce uncertainty about your benefits. So you need an outside voice to validate your claim. So one example would be like a residential cleaning service. Again, a lot of the benefits are psychological with that, and it would be difficult for your customer to go out and, understand how every other house cleaner out there is charging and the services they provide. So with this one, it still has my old value message in there. So we'll take that out. But you would have a value message that talks about having like a testimonial, like a customer testimonial or some kind of expert testimonials talking about how like having a clean house and not having to do it yourself, reduces stress and just makes your life so much easier. Now, if you have your benefits are more psychological, but it's easy for your customers to compare your product with others. So that would be going back to that idea of like the mascara or cosmetic example that I used before. So if you are ever in the makeup aisle and you see, it compares right there. It's like, here's what it looks like if you don't use our product, and here's what it looks like if you use our product. So they make it very easy for customers to compare what it would be like to use the product versus not using the product. So then in that case, it's important for your value messaging to emphasize those comparison points. And in this case, visually is one way to do it. Other ways, so I think that's a great example of that. Now the fourth option is if your benefits are economic and they're easy to compare. So in that case, it's important for your value message to explicitly connect your unique features with the value delivered to your customer. So the example we use here are like lenders and interest rates. So it's really easy for interest rates are published, the public, right? So different lenders are going to have different interest rates based on the types of services or the types of borrowers that they're servicing. So like for a lender to do their value messaging in that case, they would want to emphasize, the benefit to that customer segment of why they would be the best choice. So a lender who offers lower interest rates would emphasize obviously the economic benefits of that. Whereas a lender that has higher interest rates and maybe they lend to people who are greater credit risk or with lower credit scores, they would emphasize that part of their benefit to their audience, that they're, maybe they just lend to more people. So those are the four different types of value message that you can get out of this. So with that, does anyone have any questions? Open to any questions that I can see this in. I can now see your questions here too. Okay, well, if no one has any questions, I just want to leave you with thought that, oh, great. Okay, I'm so glad it was helpful. Pricing, I just want to leave you with the thought that most important thing to leave here with is like pricing is a strategic, really important strategic part of thinking about your business model. And secondly, it's not a set it and forget it exercise for most organizations. Even organizations that are able to just, you know, have a product and price it, whatever, that ongoing value messaging around why maybe your brand is like a luxury brand, or why it's more than the competitors. That is an ongoing exercise that is part of the value-based pricing kind of family of tactics that we use. Yeah, I think that's about it. And thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, I'm going to put my email address down here. Feel free to email me, and my number is here too. We are an organization that we're really trying to start, or I'm sure this movement has already started, and we're not starting it, but we're trying to help the movement of really closing that revenue gap between women and men-owned businesses. So we're really looking for partners who are aligned with that mission, whether it's lenders, investors, you know, banks, other organizations that care deeply about this topic. We really want to partner and help each other in this area, because we think that you know, the ability for women business owners to make strategic, data-driven financial decisions about their businesses is really key to closing that revenue gap. So with that, I guess I will finish up, unless anyone else has any questions. And I'm happy to go over, and I think there's like a networking room or something that I'm happy to go over and hang out in if anyone wants to geek out about pricing with me over there.